welcome to George on Cars. Today, you guessed it, I've got an amazing video. I'm going to be reviewing this 2022 Mustang Mach-E that I've borrowed from my friends Bill and Jana. But before we get to the video, let me tell you a little bit about this month's charity of the month. And if you're enjoying the content on the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, as it really helps the channel get some visibility, and it only takes a second. And by the way, if there's any content you want to see on the channel, or if you want a cool George on Cars shirt like the one I'm wearing here, send me an email at georgeoncars@gmail.com, and don't forget to subscribe. This month's charity of the month is the Coping Center. Now, the Coping Center is a nonprofit charitable organization that offers a peaceful place for support, understanding, and compassion while assisting people in their grief journeys. They offer their services to groups and individuals free of charge, and they're an amazing resource for those in need. So make sure you check out their website, which has some excellent information. You can even make a small donation if you like, and they're also raffling off a brand new C8 Corvette, so you can support a great charity and get a chance to win an awesome new Corvette. Thanks a lot for supporting this nonprofit, and I hope you enjoy the video. By now, most of you have heard of the Ford Mustang Mach-E. It's Ford's first real entry into the EV space, and it's a 5-door, 5-passenger, 2-row compact SUV that Ford has produced since 2021. Now I know what you're thinking. Naming a 4-door electric SUV a Mustang is blasphemy, and many of the Mustang faithful have lost sleep over the idea. But the thought isn't totally crazy. It's actually a great marketing gimmick, because it created a stir about an SUV that probably wouldn't have gotten all that much attention otherwise. That, and almost all of the sports car brands are getting into the SUV game. Porsche has the Macan and the Cayenne, Lamborghini has the Urus, and even Ferrari has bowed to the pressure and is coming out with an SUV of their own. And before the Corvette guys start getting smug, rumor has it there's a Corvette SUV in the works too. So, as unsavory as the idea sounds of having a Mustang SUV, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise, and it makes for a great marketing move. But anyhow, back to the car. The base price for a 2022 Mustang Mach-E is around $51,500 Canadian, but it can go over $92,000 Canadian for a loaded GT Performance Edition, which is what we have here. If you add taxes to that base price, you're talking $100,000 out the door, which isn't chump change. The Mach-E comes in 4 trim levels. The base model is called Select and starts at $51,500. The next step up is the Premium package, and that's $63,145. And then there's the California Route 1 Edition at $71,575. The top end model, and the one you want, is the GT Performance Edition, which starts at $85,999. Now, the Mach-E that I have here today is the GT Performance Edition, and it's finished in what Ford calls dark matter gray. It also has the 20-inch aluminum wheels with Brembo brakes, the Ford Co-Pilot 360 package, which includes Blue Cruise, Active Park Assist, and a 360 camera. This vehicle also has a non-opening panoramic roof and all-wheel drive. Overall, I think Ford did a great job with the exterior styling of the Mach-E, and I'm a big fan of these Fastback style SUVs. Now, I know you lose a little bit of cargo space over a traditional SUV, but I think the Fastback styling looks great, and it's worth the small sacrifice in practicality over a traditional SUV. On the front end of this car, the first thing you'll notice is the Mustang logo that Ford uses on the Mustang Sports Coupe. The prancing horse is placed in the center of the grille, just like it is on the sports car, and on the GT version of the Mach-E, it lights up. You can definitely see the resemblance to the Mustang Coupe by the shape of the grille and the headlights. The grille is the same shape as what you'd see on the sports car, and on EVs, grilles are strictly cosmetic, and you don't even need them. The headlights on the Mach-E are LED, and as you'd expect, they have sequential LED turn signals. The one thing you won't see on the Mach-E, though, is fog lights, because Ford decided not to add them. There are active grille shutters on the front of the car, then open and close depending on the driving conditions, and I really like this front splitter on the Mach-E, as it makes the vehicle look really sporty. On the hood of the SUV, you're going to see these sharp contour lines which add some extra dimension to the hood, and they give it a really nice sculpted look. Under the hood of the Mach-E, you don't see an engine, but you get a frunk, or a front trunk. Now, of course there's a motor powering this vehicle, and there's not just one motor, but two motors. There's a rear primary electric motor and an upgraded secondary electric motor in the front of the car, but you can't see either one. The important thing to know though is that the combined power of those two motors is 480 horsepower and 634 pound-feet of torque. This vehicle also has the 91 kilowatt extended range battery, and the Performance GT model is also all-wheel drive. Now, under the hood of the Mach-E, like I said, there's this pretty cool frunk. There's around 4.7 cubic feet of storage under the hood, which is pretty good. You can fit a small carry-on or an overnight bag up here, or even put a few small bags of groceries. One thing though that is a bit of a pain is you can't open the frunk with the key fob. You have to use the app, a lever inside the car, or a command on the infotainment screen. Ford also puts a drain plug in here in the event that you want to use this as a cooler, and there's also a nice light and a button to push in case you lock yourself in the frunk. Also up here is, on the right, is where you would put your washer fluid. So performance for the Mach-E is very impressive, as you would expect for an electric vehicle. Acceleration for this car is 0 to 60 takes about 3.5 seconds, and the quarter mile goes by in about 12.5 seconds. Range on this particular model is 260 miles of range, and again, this is the Performance GT version of the car. Now the tow ratings from Ford are, Ford recommends you don't tow with this vehicle, which is probably good because towing really reduces your range a lot, and hooking this vehicle up to a public charger with a trailer behind you can be very challenging. Moving around to the side of the Mach-E, again, I think Ford got the styling right. The one thing you won't notice on the Mach-E is big bulky door handles. In order to get into the front of the car, you just push this little button which pops the door open a bit, and then you can pull this little handle to open the front door fully. On the back doors, you have the same little button, but you don't have the little handle to pull the door all the way open with. You actually have to stick your hand inside the door and pull it open all the way, which is just a little bit weird. I know it probably impacts aerodynamics a bit, but I would rather have a small handle like the one on the front of the car or regular door handles. Also on the side of the car, I like the fact that Ford kept the keypad entry system on the Mach-E. It's a great feature in case you want to lock your keys in the car if you're going to the beach, or if you just want to get into the car and you don't have your key fob or phone with you. The side mirrors on the Mach-E have the cool marker lights neatly integrated into them, and there's also some nice cladding and contour lines on the bottom of the doors, which give the car some additional detail. The wheels on this vehicle are 20 inches, and they're wrapped in 245 45/20 Pirelli summer tires. As for the rims, these are some of the best looking rims in Ford's lineup, and I like the way the center caps have the prancing horse in them. I also love the red Brembo brake calipers. Coming around to the back of the car, you can really see the resemblance to the Mustang Coupe in the tail lamps. They are full LED and sequential, just like on the regular Mustang. Right in the middle of the rear end, you're going to see the GT badge, and at the top of the tailgate, you're going to see a spoiler, which gives this SUV a really nice sporty look. Overall, the back end of the Mach-E is a nice, simple, clean design. Now, if you want to get into the trunk, there's 3 ways to open the lift gate. You can use the key fob, the app, or a button under the trunk lid. And once open, you're going to find the lift over height is relatively low and it's easy to load. The trunk is a bit small, but this is where you lose some of that practicality over a non-Fastback styled SUV. But for the most part, the trunk room is adequate. There's 27.6 cubic feet of space behind the rear seats, which is a little bit less than the regular Mach-E, probably because this vehicle has the larger battery. Now, you can't drop the seats from the trunk area, but when you do lower them, your cargo capacity goes up to just under 60 cubic feet. There's also this neat little hidden storage area under the cargo floor where you can put small items that you want to keep out of sight. But the one thing you don't have under here is a spare tire, because you don't get one in the Mach-E. Now, the last thing I'll mention about the trunk on the Mach-E is this cargo cover. It's pretty flimsy and cheap looking, and it reminds me of the one in my C5 Corvette, which isn't a compliment. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the interior of the Mach-E, but I will tell you that I think Ford did a very nice job on the interior of this EV. The first thing you notice on the interior is the front seats. They look a little bit funny with that section that goes around your shoulders, but in the short time that I drove the car, they were very comfortable and supportive. The steering wheel on this vehicle is also another high point. In addition to having the essential controls on it, the steering wheel is thick and it feels great in your hand, and I love the prancing horse that sits front and center. Unlike Tesla, Ford chose to put an instrument cluster in their EV, and even though it's a little bit on the small side, it does show you the essential basic information that you need for everyday driving. Now, while the instrument cluster is pretty basic, the infotainment screen in the center of the dashboard is not. You can control the HVAC system, the drive modes, navigation screens, the radio, and a million other things that I'm not going to get into. The screen has excellent resolution and is quick to respond to user commands, but I really wish that Ford had some hard buttons for controls for the HVAC system and a few other functions. Under the infotainment screen, you have a wireless charging pad, 2 charging ports, and a couple of nice cup holders. And underneath this console, there's a cool storage area where you can put things like a Kleenex box or other small items. Behind the cup holders, you have the gear selector and parking brake and a nicely padded armrest with storage underneath. On the passenger side of the Mach-E, there's not a whole lot going on, but you do get a good-sized glove box for even more storage. Coming around to the back seat, there's a decent amount of headroom back here, and the seats are quite comfortable. You've got a nice armrest with 2 cup holders, some AC vents, and a couple of charging points, which are all pretty commonplace these days. You've also got more headroom than you would expect in an SUV of this size, and that's thanks to the way Ford has designed the Mach-E. You'll notice the black section on top of the roof that bumps out, and it actually gives you a bit more headroom while still giving you the appearance of a fastback SUV. And that's pretty cool. A couple things in the back seat though that I would have liked would have been storage pockets on the back of the front seats, temperature controls in the rear HVAC system, and heated seats. But other than that, the back seat area was good to go. Okay, so here we are in the 2022 Mustang Mach-E Performance Edition. And the first thing you're going to notice is I am barely stepping on the gas, and we are flying down the road here doing about 65, 70 kilometers an hour in the blink of an eye. Other impressions though, overall, interior in this vehicle is really nice. Steering wheel is absolutely beautiful, has a nice soft leather feel to it, has the basic control functions on the left and the right side. Interior quality, the gaps in the panels are quite tight. Everything is bolted together, very solid, very nice feel to it. It's got the Bang & Olufsen sound system, which sounds like $1 million. And the interior materials as well are of a very nice quality. Gauge layout on this vehicle, very nice. I like the way the gauges are laid out. They're very simple. Obviously you can adjust them. Very well laid out. There is a center instrument cluster, unlike on some of the Tesla products, which is missing that. And again, these gauges are very nicely laid out. Overall ergonomics on this vehicle are also quite nice. Visibility outside of this car is also excellent. The A-pillars aren't obtrusive at all. Looking out the rear view mirror, even though you have a slanted back window, rear visibility is excellent, as is looking out to the left and the right side. So the steering on the Mach-E is pretty quick, it's pretty direct, it has a nice feel to it. It's not overly light, and this would be something that would be great to drive on the highway. The actual steering wheel itself is beautiful. I find the quality of the leather is very soft, very supple. It's nothing like the steering wheel on my 2022 Ford Edge, which feels a bit rough and not very luxurious, to be quite honest. Now, acceleration in this vehicle is it's bananas fast. This is the first SUV that I've driven that's an EV. It's actually the first EV I've ever driven, and the acceleration is bananas quick. It's also super smooth. There's no turbo lag, there's no dual overhead cams. Even on transmission, there's no downshifting. This is just step the gas and you go instantly. It's something to behold. Handling in the Mach-E, again, very good, comparable to my wife's BMW X4. It sits relatively low. There's a relatively low center of gravity. It's a pretty heavy vehicle because it is an EV, but overall the handling is more than adequate for being an SUV. Braking on this vehicle, you can do the one pedal braking on this vehicle, which is kind of interesting. And also a feature that I was just told about by the owner is when you apply the brakes on the display screen, the lightning bolt is going to turn green, which means you're regenerating the battery, which is kind of a cool feature to have. So overall, I think the Mach-E is a great SUV with attractive styling, nice handling, good practicality, and excellent acceleration. The build quality is good, the fit and finish inside is nice, and the quality of the materials is above other Ford products, and it should be for about $100,000. It's also not just a great SUV, it's a great EV. The fact it's an electric vehicle means that maintenance costs are quite low compared to a comparable ICE SUV, and if you're looking at the Mach-E, you'll also want to consider the Tesla Model Y. Now, I haven't driven a Model Y, so I can't say which one I'd rather have, but from what I'm hearing, the Model Y has a bit more range and performance, and the charging network is quite a bit better. But the Mach-E has a larger dealer network, and getting service is going to be quite a bit easier for people living in remote locations or smaller towns. The bottom line is, would I buy one? I think the Mach-E is a great second car for the right person, but for me and most people, it can't be my only car. Making long road trips in any EV is going to be a chore. Now, I know many YouTubers have done it, but why would you want to? For example, last summer, we did a road trip to the east coast of Canada, and none of the hotels I stayed at had charging stations, and some of the areas we drove were so remote, I barely saw any gas stations, let alone charging stations. Also, if you live in an apartment and don't have access to a charging station, or you live in the city and have to park on the street, I wouldn't buy any EV. The other problem with EVs is the battery cost. Eventually, the battery on this is going to die, and when it does, the cost of a new Mach-E battery can be over $20,000, which at some point won't be worth investing in as the car ages. That being said, if you want a second car that you'll use as a commuter vehicle, and you have access to home charging in a garage, and you lease this vehicle or don't intend to keep it long term, this thing is awesome. It's comfortable, quiet, practical, and very fast. So, is the Mustang Mach-E worthy of the Mustang name? You bet it is. It's the Mustang of SUVs. Well, that's it. That's my review of the 2022 Mustang Mach-E Performance Edition. Thanks to my friends Bill and Jenna for letting me review their car, and thanks a lot to you for watching the video. And don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and more importantly, support the charity of the month if you can. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next video.